Business is like the ultimate personal development tool you'll ever face because it exposes all your weaknesses. If you're an introvert, it's going to make you be an extrovert. If you're bad financially, it's going to show on the books.
Business is cutthroat in a lot of ways, and like it depends. I think that's the difference between small business and big business, though, is because small business usually they uplift each other. Big business usually they're fighting.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's like,
I love that you were able to say like focus on your empire. So
yeah.
like. Welcome back to the Colorado Springs Business Podcast, #1 podcast in Colorado and the world eventually. Yes. So tonight, our episode is sponsored by Lowry's Veterans Law. So we're in for a good episode. We have two very, very special guests. So we have owners and hosts, Marcus Alvarado and Andrew Halsey.
Halsey, yes.
Hasley,
It's
the man.
technically the name. Yeah.
Hasley, if you want.
Hasley, the man.
I was Hasley
So-
for 5 years.
So you guys are usually watching these guys do the interviews with everyone who's coming on the business podcast. But today we're turning it around a little bit, and we wanted to interview, of course, the owners of the podcast. Oops, did I mess that up?
No.
Okay.
You're good to
So yeah,
We don't-
welcome, guys.
We don't
it's so
own
good
it.
to have you.
Everyone owns it.
Everyone
This is-
owns
this
it,
is-
but let's be real here. You guys are the heartbeat, the glue to the podcast. So, aside from
I beat once, he beats the next.
that's right. Boom,
He goes
boom,
boom boom.
boom, boom,
Yeah,
boom,
exactly.
boom, boom, boom.
Two beats of the same drum.
What happened?
What?
Yes, can we?
What happened?
Oh, blue lights. Let's actually just pick it up where we started. Don't you turn them on?
No, can we start all over?
No, I think that was great.
I think you did a really good intro, to be honest with you.
I like that.
I mean, it's up to you, but I think you did good.
No. Let's continue.
Okay. So we got the lights on.
Yep.
Okay. So as we said, usually you guys are the ones that are interviewing the folks that are coming on the podcast. So we wanted to turn everything around and put it all on you. So the first question, Andrew, you are the visionary of this podcast. So what made you want to start a business podcast for Colorado Springs? Like, what was the...
Ooh, that's a good
Yes.
question. You know, I haven't really answered that with, I think, good thought in a long time. So I'm excited to answer this question because I had done podcasts for multiple years before the podcast. I had one podcast where I did 100 episodes before I even stopped. Well, it was like 90 something. And I learned and kind of cut my teeth on that, you know, and learned kind of the in and outs of like how to really start a podcast. And so I had the skills, and then I knew being in a new city and that I needed to like get to know people. So kind of having the skills of doing the podcast and also having a video production company, I thought it was the perfect way to promote my business. But even if I had like a salon, I think anyone to start a podcast based on promoting small businesses would have been a good idea no matter what, but specifically for video production, because it is video production. So it was good either way. And then Gary Vaynerchuk, I was listening to him on my way to Ellicott because I was living in an Airbnb in Ellicott for like 2 weeks at the end of November, like the last 2 weeks of November in 2019. And listening to Gary Vaynerchuk's podcast, and he was like, you should start a podcast called Your City Name Podcast. And I was
Business
like,
podcast, right?
Your City Name Business Podcast.
And you did that.
Yeah, and as soon as I was driving, it's like a 30-minute drive from downtown Colorado Springs to Ellicott, and like listening to that, I was like, he implanted that idea, and like, as soon as I got back, I recorded the trailer for it. I sent out a few messages to a few people that I got connected to, Frank Sinclair and Brandon Kirk being two of those people that I reached out to first, and they were ready. It just so happened that Frank was faster than Brandon, or no, Brandon was faster than Frank because Brandon was the first episode, and then like so it would have been either one of them to be the first episode. So and then I was literally the first episodes were me popping up at people's businesses or coffee shops, because that's where me and Frank recorded, because he has the mobile. Well, he has an office now, but he at the time he like met people at coffee places. That was his way to that was his office, was coffee places. And so like meeting people in the community before I started that allowed me to even have that possibility, because for like two months while I was here, I was going to networking events and all that stuff, and like getting to know like the community. And then I was like, heard that idea, I was like, okay, this is the perfect way to, you know, it's one of those go-giver kind of mentalities, is where like if you're just giving value to people without any expectations back, and kind of just giving value to people, you can get in more meetings and more meaningful meetings as well too. So I was already doing like 5 coffee meetings a day, like on top of the pod, like not before I did the podcast, I meant. And so it was like, so what better way to get to know people and provide value to them than to promote their business for free. Absolutely. And then it's the idea is like they think of me, they know me, they build that know, like, and trust factor. So when they need my services, it's not like I'm trying to sell them right there. It was just like, how do you make that connection? Because people have to know you, like you, and trust you before they even want to buy from you. Yeah.
No, that's a great start of the podcast. And as we've seen, like throughout the episodes, from episode 1 you talked about with Brandon to this very episode, it's evolved. Right?
Oh, so much. Yeah.
And it's like, everything is just absolutely incredible. Like, I know that there's always going to be those things that we're like, oh, we got to fix this, we got to fix that. But you've seen a lot evolve. And I know, meeting Marcus, and Marcus, please chime in on this. What made you like attracted to the podcast, that you're like, I want to be invested in this, I want to be a part of this vision with Andrew?
We'd like to take a quick break and thank our sponsors. Lowry Veterans Law.
That's perfect.
Lowry Veterans Law is a nationwide veterans disability firm based in Colorado. Their VA-accredited attorneys specialize in TDIU unemployability, PTSD, and secondary service connection claims.
They work on contingency, no upfront fees, so they only get paid when you do.
If the VA hasn't given you the rating you deserve, get a free case evaluation at LowryVeteransLaw.com or call 719-895-6979.
Planet Duct. Planet Duct is the #1 choice for professional air duct cleaning in Colorado Springs in southern Colorado. With state-of-the-art equipment and top-tier service, they make sure the air in your home or business is clean and allergen-free. Breathe easier with Planet Duct. Learn more at planetduct.com.
Franchise Succeed. Looking to invest in a franchise or grow your current one? The experts at Franchise Succeed help you navigate the world of franchising with proven strategies and guidance. Whether you're a first-time owner or scaling a franchise empire, they're here to help. Visit franchisesucceed.com to get started. That's franchisesucceed.com. Pinnacle Advanced Primary Care.
Pinnacle Advanced Primary Care offers affordable, accessible healthcare with a focus on you. They provide exceptional primary care without the hassle of insurance barriers. Experience a patient-centered approach. Learn more at pinnacleapc.com.
Celebrity DJ. Make your next event unforgettable with Celebrity DJ. From weddings to corporate events, they deliver energy and entertainment that keeps the party going. Visit celebrity-dj.com to book your DJ today. Storybook Destinations.
Turn your dream vacation into a reality with Storybook Destinations. They specialize in creating custom travel experiences, from Disney vacations to bucket list adventures. Start planning today at StorybookDestinations.com. That's StorybookDestinations.com.
Awesome Home Services. Awesome Home Services delivers top-notch HVAC solutions for your home. Whether you need heating, cooling, or system maintenance, they ensure your comfort year-round. Visit awesomeservice.com for your HVAC needs. That's awesomeservice.com. And now let's get back to the show. We've told this a couple of times, but it's super interesting and serendipitous, because we had a mutual friend named Brian Rosmanith.
Rosmanith.
I always pronounce his last name wrong, but he's a great friend. He owns Ignite Experiences. And he introduced Andrew and myself. I wanted to do my own podcast. I was just doing the festivals at that point. And it was 2019. I had a very successful tiny house festival here in Colorado Springs. And it was still back then, it was still Colorado Springs. So I wanted to centralize a lot of my efforts here. And so I was like, I see this guy every once in a while on Facebook that's producing a podcast. I saw my buddy Brian that was on the podcast. I need to meet this guy. So Brian actually he labeled the calendar event 3 billionaires walk into a room or walk into a coffee shop, I think is what the actual name was. He forgot to show up.
He did, yeah.
And
So it was just 2 billionaires.
And we had never met each other, so I was looking around.
Yeah, and I seen him on the podcast, so I recognized who he was and everything. So we came up and I mean, we ended up being like a long meeting between the two of us. And again, back then it was still like me doing my own thing and like kind of going up with pricing and be like, I just want to produce my own. You seem like you know what you're doing to a very high level. Let's keep this conversation going. And I think the next meeting was in the office, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, I just need to go into business with this guy, and we got to combine powers to make this podcast really soar. And so that's what we did in January of 21. So he already been rolling with this thing for a year and a half, really, before I even jumped on board, and was like 80 something episodes in. I think I finally officially jumped in like 90 episodes in. Into the podcast. So like for him, it was like 5 times a week to 3 times a week. Insane. Now we only do it once a week. And that's still a heavy lift. And so like it's even since I've been on, gosh, we're coming up on 4 years since I've been on with Andrew. It's changed a whole lot.
Yes, it has.
And it's been great. I mean, especially just seeing the people in this town and their stories and their talents and their backgrounds. This is not a sleepy town anymore. Like you have a lot of very talented people doing a lot of amazing things and who have brushed shoulders with like so many incredible people in Hollywood, with Rocky Ross, with so many people that we know that have had such incredible stories that we just like to showcase. So it's just been such a blessing, right?
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So no, that's incredible that you guys were able to team up and make this podcast what it is today. And a lot of people don't understand, or they don't see the behind the scenes of this podcast, because we know that Marcus is the one that's like reaching out for sponsors. He's the one that's like kind of just getting the behind the scenes and making sure that we're able to get the lighting, and Edgar's in the back right here, just so you guys know, huge part of the podcast. He will not talk on the podcast for some reason, but
go watch the cat episode.
The cat episode is Edgar.
Yeah.
But yes, so behind the scenes, like I said, Marcus does this big portion, and then Andrew, you're pretty much the one that's producing the episodes, where it's like you're cutting certain things out. You have you're cutting the noises out. Like you guys don't hear all these crazy noises in the background, or the the people in the background slamming doors. So that's behind the scenes for Andrew. Do you guys want to go a little bit more into like what you do behind the scenes, what people don't see?
For years, you know, I was also doing the booking and the sponsoring and everything, and Marcus has really taken the reins on that over the last year. So that's been super helpful. So yeah, I really like this, the teamwork. Like you were saying at the beginning of what you were just saying was like, there's a lot of work that goes into this. It's actually pretty much, it's one of those kinds of things that are like impractical. Like going to space, or going to Mars for SpaceX is impractical, you know, but people still do it, you know, people still aim to do it and build it. Like what I'm saying is most people probably wouldn't want to do what we're doing when it comes down to everything.
Right, absolutely.
to keep this show rolling.
Because it's all like glitter and glam, like when you see it, but like when you get down to the nitty gritty, it's just like, okay, it's a business. It's an actual business. So for your part, Andrew, walk us through what you go through like on a weekly basis with the podcast. You can start with the setup. I mean, the setup itself, like I said.
Oh
Andrew
yeah, we have to
Edgar.
like we show up an hour, 2 hours, an hour and a half, you know, before the guest even gets here, to make sure Marcus shows up like 2 or 3 hours beforehand to make sure that the doors are open, so because we come here late. And so it's like you know, we have to plan our day every Tuesday around this, and Edgar does. All 3 of us have to coordinate to make sure that happens with the guest. All 4 of us actually each week. And so it's like there's a lot of work to build to that, but there's a lot of the things, like, as you know, Marcus is helping with a lot of things, and Edgar does a lot of things, as that allows all of us to, like, as long as we have our set things that we each do, when we want to do more things, we can. So it's like when we want to, like there's certain things that I want to do that we still aren't doing yet, you know, like it's hard. It's a lot of work. And so like comes to the setup, you know, bringing all the equipment in, running. it's a pure focus when we are setting up too. Like if we are not pure focused, it's going to take 2 hours to set up, and it's gonna take an extra 30 minutes to set up. So it's like,
And this is facts.
yeah. And
We've seen it firsthand.
And it's the energy that goes into it. Like I'm burning calories setting things up, you know. It's like I'm carrying things in, and it's like if I'm not doing these chain of events and these chain of in the specific order, getting the wires, if I'm distracted about putting these wires together, that's actually probably what takes longer than anything, because it's like making sure, oh, I'm connecting this one. Oh, there's one mic that doesn't have the blue thing. So it's like, and then I connect them all one way, and it's just like I have to rewire everything.
And you guys have such a vision. So I know that both you and Edgar have like an incredible eye, and Marcus as well, for the vision. You see this lighting in the back. You see the lighting on our faces.
It's always improving too.
And it is.
It's always changed, like from the beginning. Like when we were in the first office, actually, like there was, because it was so confined, figuring out the lighting for that was actually tricky. So what I had to do was actually, because it was up against the wall, 2 of the lights were actually bounced off of the main wall, and that was like the main key light, actually, because 2 of the lights were bouncing off the wall that were right next to it, and figuring out all of that was a lot of work too, you know. So
and you have to have that vision for it. So all the catchiness that you see in these episodes, it's because you guys had this vision. You guys have this very like, and I call them perfectionists, because it's just like if a certain light is out of place, then it's like Edgar just ran and turned on the blue light in the background. So you guys are very particular about your setup. You moved the mic over just a little bit for me, just so you could get through the
everything
cameras
lined up
and all that.
everything. Yeah.
So it does take a lot of work, and it looks really good. So, and we'll get more into like how the podcast evolved, but I wanted to swing over to Marcus. I know that Andrew does more in his side, because he does like the production and like he cuts the videos, as we were saying. But Marcus, you want to talk a little bit more about your part in the podcast?
For sure. It's evolved over time. Everything from helping switch over the cameras from the very beginning to taking on a lot more of the admin and like business relationship side of things, and bringing on a lot more of the sponsors and making sure that budgets are in place and so on and so forth. So
which
like,
is where you shine too.
Yeah, and that's my background, right? I have a couple businesses, and I do that in all of them, bookkeeping and admin and like client relations and sales. So like in the very beginning, like especially with the sales and sponsors help us. They're the lifeblood of our business. It was both of us kind of going after our connections, and he had a lot of great connections who already were fans. In the beginning, there were a lot of those repeat fans coming over and sponsoring the show. Shout out to Planet Duck too, because they've been here since like literally the beginning. They're amazing.
Literally the first episode.
And we don't have much churn on our sponsors, was thank goodness for that too. So like the way we've been able to build up, we just hit our 15th sponsor that we have on the show, has really been able to allow us to have like an actual set budget every month. We have a food budget. We have a budget which we could pay Edgar, budget that we put aside every single month, a budget that we actually finally have been able to pay ourselves. I think it was in October, first time we took payroll for ourselves. So that's kind of what I do. And then of course, like getting like the right guests, and then like Andrew helps with that a lot too, because you want to be able to bring in like our spheres of influence into the show, because we walk different paths in certain ways as far as who we meet in the city of Colorado Springs or greater Colorado area. And so like we book them, and we try to keep like a 90-day out like booking pattern for a lot of our guests. A lot of people want to be on the show. So if you do still want to, please still apply.
So if you come in town randomly, you can't expect to just come on the podcast.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge.
A few months ahead. I want people to know, because it's like people will come in town and be like, "Oh, you do a podcast?" It's like,
so they are booked.
Yeah,
you guys are booked like far.
The farthest we've been booked out is 6 months. We've definitely, I've kind of kept it at 90 days just because that's a little bit too far. And sometimes we'll have like a guest who's like a really prominent person that we want to kind of get in there, and so we have to figure those things out too.
Really, we should have someone that is just the booker, because then we can like do like really high profile people. Like having Gary Vaynerchuk would be the full circle on this podcast for me, at least, because he was kind of the inspiration to start the podcast. And I think we line up with what he does, and I think one day we will have him on. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Shout out, clip it, and then tag him.
Yeah, he's the best. And yeah, so that's kind of what I do. And then I help with clipping too. So I clip his edited videos. And so if you see like those vertical clips, that's usually me.
And the reels, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about reels.
Yeah. So
like
that's
you
me
have
now.
you got to simplify it for
Yeah.
people who have a mind like me.
Yeah, well, and at first we had a couple we've worked with video editors too in the past, and that's
Yeah.
worked, and maybe we should go back to that, but like AI technology has been
Opus
so
Clip?
good now
Yeah.
that it's helped us so much as far as like payroll, because I mean, even me doing the clips for reels or shorts or whatever, it's really the AI technology doing like 80% of the work.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's pretty cool. I mean, even with some of that B-roll that you see from,
It still takes time to upload them.
it does take time still. It still takes me about 3 to 4 hours a week
Yeah.
to do it. But like, that's a lot of work that it does for me. And so
Yeah.
that's big, you know, and then of course just maintaining our sponsors and making sure that they're happy and booking and all that stuff too. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and then getting on all the platforms, tagging the right people, posting for each platform is like
Yep.
important. And like we have our main platforms that we hit, but like we want like I said, we should each one of these things could be a job.
Yeah.
The Diary of the CEO guy, like what has he recently said that he has 50 people
yeah.
just for that podcast? Yeah, because
Wow.
so he has like a Facebook team, a specific team for like each little thing. So it's like
And you guys are doing this with 3 people.
yeah.
That's pretty incredible that you guys can reach as many people as you do. And
3.25. I think you come in sometimes. So
I
yeah.
I get to interview and I get to fill in every now and then, and I get to bug the guys. But
Yeah.
it's really incredible to see how both your strengths come together to make this beautiful podcast. It's really wonderful, and like you were saying, Andrew, it's a great way for business owners to really put their name out there, because there are people watching, and they watch like it's a thing that they must do every Thursday when the podcast comes
or whenever
out.
they feel like it too, because that's the cool thing about podcast is because
You could go back and watch it, right?
or you can wait on your own time, and it's like I yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
So no, that's incredible that you guys are able to find those strengths and put them together, and it's really wonderful to see that. So we're talking about guests, right? So let's talk about how we select guests. Is there a certain process you guys go through to make sure that you have the right guests on the show?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, yeah.
Yeah.
So how would, for anyone who's watching and they're like, oh, I really want to be on like the Colorado Springs Business Podcast, how would you describe to them what your selection process is for the podcast?
Well, first we have a submission form that Mark has put together. Yeah, it's connected to a Google sheet too. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah. And you know, people can submit on there, and then we'll go through those submissions, and then like, you know, like we don't want to exclude anybody for real, but I mean, we have a limited space. I mean, 52 guests a year if you're doing once a week, you know, and sometimes, you know, like if you have Christmas off, it's actually really like 50, you know, it's like,
Right.
Yeah.
and so it's like, that's actually a limited space because there's way more than 50 businesses that start in Colorado Springs every single year, just in Colorado Springs. There's probably like 1,000 businesses that start every single year just in Colorado Springs. And I did the math actually once when I first started. I was like, if I was doing 5 a day or 5 a week, you know, like I could still only hit a fraction of people. And we, you know, we try to, you know, be fair, let everyone, you know, that is anyone have a chance at being on the podcast, you know, but
Absolutely.
like we also have to make sure we have good programming and a good show and interesting people. Because when I first started the podcast, you know, I would just have anyone and everyone. That you can do that when you have 5 guests on a week, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, that was also when I was first starting, so it was sometimes hard for, you know, to have good content, you know, and like to have the conversations that are interesting. And so it's like we also want to have, our viewers are important. They help the show grow, they help everything, they help the sponsors, you know, all that stuff. And like if we have boring people on, not to be mean or anything.
I don't think you guys have had a
Yeah.
boring person on the show yet.
Well, that's the interesting thing is it's for some people this person's boring, and for some people this person's boring. You know,
That's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
We have such a variety, so it's like it's really cool to see. But yeah, we try to allow anyone that can be on, but we also try to be a little bit picky. What do you think about?
Yeah, I mean, he hit it right on the nail. I mean, in the very beginning, like he said, I was really pushing for like getting some more heavier hitters on the show. But I think we came to like a really good medium with all that, because he's right. Like we have to have the startups, because that's like the soul of this community too, is the startups. And so like, it's so beautiful to have those on here as well. There's a lot of people who put a lot of effort to get on this show, which is amazing. We get like 5 to 10 submissions an episode. So like we said, if you submitted within the past 6 months or even a year, there's still a chance for you to come on the show. We still look, when we look through all of our lists of like people that kind of check those boxes as well. But like if you're engaging with our content
Yeah.
and you're liking our stuff and you're like following
We
us,
see that first. So it's gonna it's gonna like put you on our radar.
we have one we just booked. Her name is Jen. It's like Slay Social with Jen, and she's been like a loyal like engager of our content for like 6 months. And I gave her the nod yesterday. I was like, I would love to have you on the show. One, it's marketing, so it's gonna be great for me to talk to another marketer. She's a social media marketer, but two, like she's just been engaging and been a big fan of our show for so long. Engaging, it's just been amazing. And then, of course, like we want to get those people who are like really gonna be somebody who's gonna be able to shine on the show and know of the show. A lot of our recent guests, past few years, are like, "Hey, I watched this episode," or "Hey, I saw my friend come on the show."
Oh yeah,
we have people just in. I'm sure everyone knows this, but I'm Marcus's girlfriend, and we have people who like will stop Marcus and say, "Hey, we've seen you off the podcast," like, and I'm sure Andrew, you get that all the time too. But it's good to know that what you guys are doing is being seen and being heard. So with that being said, why is it important for small businesses to get their name out there in like podcasts or even just like networking?
Because the president won presidency with podcast.
Rogan.
Not just Rogan. This was the first debate.
Can we rewind this back real quick? So it first started with Theo Vaughn.
True.
Just saying, Theo is.
It didn't first start with him, but he was one of them. Yeah.
But he was the one that set the fire to the other flames. So, or I
I
guess
could say that he helped definitely set the tone for it for sure.
Yes, you're right. You're right. So
the president was elected from podcast essentially, because that's what people listen to.
Yeah. Do you think that people are going more towards like the news, like we'll say like the local news, to look at like the small businesses, or are they coming to your guys' podcast or other podcasts?
Well, here's a question to throw back at you. Like, what gets a complete stranger to become a loyal customer? And like usually between the two is trust. And like building trust with people. And like what's better to build trust with people than having them like listen to a long form interview. And like they say, like eventually the barriers go down. You get to really know the person, their nuances. And so the humanity of like a podcast and get to know somebody like really gets the viewers to really see who our personalities are. And that builds trust.
It
builds trust.
Like, and trust. Those three factors.
For sure.
At first, when I was doing the podcast, it was a 1-to-1 thing because no one was really watching except for, the guest. And so it was like I was building that know, like, and trust with them. But now the businesses that come on, and they knew that too as they were coming on. And that's why I had sponsors from the beginning, is like you could build that know, like, and trust factor right from being on a podcast or being a sponsor of a podcast. And like, yeah, it's really cool to have some sponsors right off the gate, actually. I had 4 sponsors right out the gate. We're going to take a quick break to thank our sponsors. Home Day. Buying a home shouldn't be overwhelming. Home Day empowers you to save on your mortgage by putting you in control of the process. Lower your cost and take the next step towards home ownership with ease. Visit gethomeday.com today.
Fast Signs. From banners to vehicle wraps, Fast Signs delivers custom visual solutions to help your business stand out. Their team ensures your message is clear, bold, and effective. Get your signage needed handled at fastsigns.com. That's fastsigns.com. Neon Pig Creative.
Neon Pig Creative brings your brand to life through exceptional design and creative strategy. Whether you need branding, websites, or marketing materials, they've got you covered. Check them out at neonpigcreative.com. That's neonpigcreative.com.
Epic Eyewear. Stylish, affordable, and designed for adventure, Epic Eyewear has the sunglass and eyewear you need to see life more clearly. From the mountains to the beach, protect your eyes with high-quality frames and lenses. Check out their collection at epiceyewear.com. And by the way, Andrew, we do have a special discount, COSBP 15 for 15% off, I believe.
Cars Helping Charities. Turn your unused cars into a meaningful contribution with Cars Helping Charities. They make it easy to donate your vehicle to support local causes. One of the local charities that we like to support on behalf of Cars Helping Charities, actually, and part of their sponsorship is Mattersville. And check them out too.
They're awesome. They are a tiny house community for veterans suffering with PTSD. They have a property out in Yoder, Colorado, and then they also have one in Sedalia, Colorado as well.
Donate today and make a difference. Visit carshelpingcharities.org. That's carshelpingcharities.org.
Dream Accounting Solutions.
Take the stress out of managing your books with Dream Accounting Solutions. They provide reliable expert accounting services tailored to small businesses. Simplify your finances at dreamaccountingsolutions.com. That's dreamaccountingsolutions.com.
Exponential Impact. Exponential Impact is driving innovation and entrepreneurial success in Colorado Springs. Supporting startups with mentorship, funding, and community resources, they help businesses grow and thrive. Learn more about their impact at exponentialimpact.com. That's exponentialimpact.com.
And now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, and I've been saying on a couple of other episodes, it's like that 40-year low on trust because everybody's been getting hit with ads, especially after election. Like we've been hit with 1 million ads. Like a lot of people who've only been running ads for X amount of years, and there's a lot of people out there who literally run ads. It's not enough anymore. Like if you really want to get your business out there, you have to build the know, like, and trust factor, like Andrew's saying. How do you do that? I mean, that's why social media is such a big piece to everybody's puzzles because they really got to buy into you before they buy your stuff, your services or whatever. And like the best way to do that is to come on a podcast and just like break bread with people who genuinely care about this community, especially the local businesses here. Like it's been such a pleasure to get to know them because we genuinely do care about their business and getting to know them, you know?
And we don't break the bread, we chop the bread because we're chopping it up.
Chop it up.
chop bread with them.
Chop, chop, chop. Well, that's always good to know because there's a lot of guests who might be unsure, might be like, okay, we've never been on a podcast. For me, I'm very introverted. Well, a lot of people say I'm not anymore, but there might be some introverted business owners there. So how do you bring, by the way, Andrew and Marcus, they're the best interviewers because they make things so easy and so fun. So how do you guys go about like that social aspect of having a guest on the show and bringing out that more extroverted side and to bring that passion out? Because you see a lot of passion for the business owners when they come on your podcast. So how do you bring that out?
We're like a perfect 1-2 punch for that because like I'll bring like the professionalism and like meet them at the door and shake their hand and whatever it might be and like all the way through the process. But like when Andrew comes and brings like the humor to it, that really is like the final piece to like making sure they're comfortable. Because a lot of people they are nervous coming on the show. But like that kind of like, I guess, hospitality mixed with like humor and making people like really comfortable and laugh and like, we're not so serious. Like we're making fun jokes. You just talk about chopping it up versus
Chop, chop, chop.
breaking bread, right? Like I think it's a really good
also a lot of
punch.
the times have met them at least once before they come on the show too. So
Yeah.
that helps.
There's a good portion that we haven't too.
Yeah. That happens too. Yeah.
One thing I can tell you though, like, and this is just a dose of reality for any entrepreneur out there, is just like any type of entrepreneur is going to have success. Like their life begins outside their comfort zone. And so like you got to go to bat for your business. And that can be in the form of a lot of different things that you don't want to do as an introvert, which sucks.
I'm doing a live stream tonight, 10:30.
Networking,
and I'm scared
going
of
on
it.
podcasts, meeting other business owners and entrepreneurs and getting yourself around the fire. Those are all hard. I mean, we're not even talking about like cold calls and things of that nature. Like all those are hard. Even if you're an extrovert, those are very, very hard to do. So like a big dose of reality is like, if you want to play in this game, you have to get outside your comfort zone. You have to. And it's very, very hard. And it's very, very challenging. So like not only get outside your comfort zone, but like build a community around those who are doing the same. It makes it a little bit easier to have your tribe who's also going through the same struggles with you. And is there anything you want to add to that? Because
it just reminds me of when I was doing Million Cups, which is in the same location actually now. Same room every Wednesday tomorrow. And well, the day before because this is coming out on Thursday. So, and it reminds me when I was tapped into the community and was already doing Million Cups a bunch. And when I had to speak on stage, it was one of the most terrifying things. I don't like speaking on stage. And just having people in the crowd that I knew was in the community was really awesome. And, you know, like having Frank laugh at my jokes that weren't funny was really great. He's just like rolling his ass off. And, you know, it's just, I think there was a reason why I was tying that to what you asked, but I can't remember what that reason was though.
Well, like having the community support and then having someone that you know in the
Community
crowd.
support,
Yeah, for sure. It's huge.
And we have that here in Colorado Springs, here in this podcast. And that's why I say like a lot of the guests, maybe we hadn't met them not a lot of them, but actually because most of them we have met, but the ones that we haven't met beforehand, they'll have checked out a few episodes. And that's the beautiful thing about video as well too, is like you can feel like you know someone before you even get in a room with them. Like kind of probably how Marcus had when I first met him. Like he was able to see me. He had at least a little bit of insight of who I was. And like I think people can go back and look at old episodes, which is goes full circle back to why you should come on the podcast, because that helps people get to know you and like you and trust you. And like, you can also send it to people. like, and we put a really good production, like, it's not like a Zoom podcast. Thankfully, those have died for the most part. COVID really like pulled out a bunch of Zoom podcasts, and they're all boring. I just wanted to skip all of them. And not to hate on any Zoom podcast, because sometimes you have to do that. There's actually some of my favorite podcasts. Every so often they'll have one on Zoom, and it's just as informative. But there is that connection, and I think like we've never had a Zoom episode. We've always met in person, and I think that's also important too. But like outside of that, and now I'm rambling. So yeah.
No, you're good.
I think it's a great point. Yeah, it's so cool to see podcasts interject itself into people's lives and their business lives. Meaning, like, there's some businesses that have come on the show who have never gotten the recognition that they've finally get on this show, and it's so cool to see like them sharing on social media their episode. They're so proud of their episode, and like they're like,
and put a face to them too, because we do video and we do a good video. Like a lot of people, they don't have that. Like I don't even have enough of that, and I'm a videographer. I've been on camera multiple times. I don't even have the video of myself that I need. Like when I go back to try to find something, I was like, oh, I have all these videos. It's like I still don't even have it's not easy to be represented on video well, and we do that for you for free.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really good because we talk about like passion. Like a lot of people don't understand that as like a business, you have to have like your mission, right? Your mission statement of what your business is about, right? And for that mission statement, it comes with a background. So one of my most like memorable guests on your guys' show was Johnny Joy.
I was just thinking about him actually when I was saying we put a face to him, because he ultimately was a radio guy, not a face. So that's who I was thinking of too.
We think about Johnny Joy and everything that he is a part of, right? So we talk about sobriety, right? During his episode, I was going through something with my family member who was struggling with sobriety. So that was my most memorable guest of your guys' show. What about you guys? Like who really just like, you're like, oh my gosh, I just love to have them on. And I know you guys love everyone that comes on, but who was that most memorable guest for you? Who touched your heart?
I hate most. I'm not good at, not that I hate, but I'm not the best with most, but I do like.
And you can name a couple.
I do like Frank. Frank's always been a good, his energy that when he comes on is always been, Frank Sinclair. Yes. He's always been a good guest. He was the second guest actually, and he's been on 4 times, I think, something like that, 3 times.
He's a funny dude.
So he's just memorable. He's
awesome.
He's just himself too, right?
It feels good being around Frank. That's for sure.
And Frank is in case you guys don't know, Frank is everywhere. He is supporting Colorado Springs, and we see him everywhere we go. So it's like, it's always good to see him
straight
around.
hustler. I'll interject one that's kind of that I loved and that was super fun and has been a really good friendship is Nova. That was a really good one to have on. He was just so intrigued with what we were doing, how we do it. And his story's so cool. I had no idea he was a musician and what he did. Signed with Atlantic Records, like insane.
He makes a living off of his music, actually. Like
It's
I'm pretty
insane.
sure he gets royalties still to this day. You know?
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we introduced him to Gary Leon, who we've had on the show too. And so hearing them talk and them like talk about similar people in Atlantic Records was a really cool thing.
Oh wow, that's
full
cool.
circle thing. And just like he's just such a good bright light in the community of Colorado Springs. And he's doing so many cool things. Like look out for Nova. I know he just announced that he's going to be leaving Fox 21, but he will be sticking around the community for a long time. He's going to be opening up the Brit Pub. He has his podcast that he's doing. Again, probably inspired by this show. Another one, Matthew Schnipper, like a great friend of the show, and he's was inspired by our show. It actually asked some questions before he started his out as well. And he has his podcast and his newsletter going out. All these cool people who come from different backgrounds, maybe corporate and radio or news or whomever it is. Like Johnny Joy is radio. Nova is the news station. I mean, it's just so cool. And then Schnipper was the newspaper. There you go.
Yeah, so we had all 3.
Traditional media and
video,
like
paper, and audio.
that's pretty cool. And like those were the big 3, 20 years ago, and see what they're doing to reinvent themselves.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There's so many multiple guests, and I try to think of it in like, episode 1 through 50, who was all there? Episode 50 through 100, who was all there? Episode 1 to 150, who's all there?
Andrew said, I love all of them. All of them.
Yeah.
I just want to just say everything about them.
And like, so it would be easy to say some of our biggest guests too, but like, there's so many good ones that aren't the biggest. Like we've had some. So like, it's easy to remember the ones that did the biggest numbers because you see them every time you go on YouTube. And me and Marcus go on the YouTube to upload it all the time.
Yeah.
Stuff. upload stuff. And so it's like we could like Levi's episode did really well.
Yep.
Levi Taurus.
Oh, Taurus, yes.
Yeah. Levi Taurus' episode did really well. It's actually, we should probably have him come back on again.
He's going to come back on next year
Nice.
too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And
High Five Plumbing.
yeah.
High Five Plumbing.
And his episode, I think, did really well just because he was talking about some really good business stuff going on. We had a comment on there. Oh, I was listening to it. It was really good until you guys started talking about God, and I had to go. You know. So sometimes we talk about God. That was one of the comments. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Gosh.
And it was really good until this happened.
Just listen through it. You guys would be okay.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's the thing we see. And one thing that I told Marcus is like, you know, for reals, say something controversial if you really want to go viral.
For real.
Like that's one of the topics that is usually
Well, that's actually a tricky thing because you don't want to just do that just to go viral.
not to go viral, but I'm just saying those people out there, TikTok, Reels.
There's certain hacks. Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely like.
What, you don't want me to say that?
No, it's the truth. I mean, that's what you did. I mean, for your whole TikTok, and we should note this too, is like you had almost 250,000 followers on TikTok at one point. It was a Christian TikTok account, right?
Yeah.
Just talking about life and I mean the real stuff too. That's what's cool about Christianity in its own right is like usually it comes from a place of like extreme hurt or extreme testimony. Testimony in the Christian religion is like your story. And like we've had some, I mean, Rob Decker was this incredible. I mean, we have so many crazy ones like that.
So, and the thing is, you don't have to believe what other people believe, but out of respect for that person, if you're liking everything that they're saying, you have to also respect who they are as a human being. So, and we won't get too much into the controversial topic because this is about you guys. But let's circle back to the guests. Okay. So one person I have to tell you guys, and I'm kind of taking over right now because this is someone that is very near and dear to my heart. Michelle from Gratitude. I have to give her a huge shout out because she's just an incredible human being. And to make just tell my story and tell like our testimony of who this woman is. So Marcus and I have been on our sobriety journey for over a year now. My brother, I call him my brother-in-law, but my brother-in-law lost his son. He was shot and killed in Denver. So the day that happened, we took him and my we took my brother-in-law and sister into Gratitude just to drink some kava, kind of just relax. Michelle had no idea of what was going on that day. All she knew was how to be her. And the incredible person that she is, she was sparking up conversation. She was making us laugh. She was trying drinks, giving us drinks, and just showering us with love. And that right there, she had, like I said, she had no idea what happened to John during that time. But like, it's so good to see business owners like not particularly care about, like, of course you have to care about money, but to care about their customers and their clients and to put that passion forward to the point where you don't know what's going on in someone's life, but you still shower them with love because that's the person that you are. I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Michelle because that was something that we didn't expect. And that's always going to be forever in my sister's and my brother-in-law's heart because they'll always remember that day and what happened that day. And they'll always remember Michelle's face and showing that kind of love during a very, very hard time. So huge shout out to Michelle. I just wanted to throw that out there. Hit my heart. I'm like, she's incredible. Go check out Gratitude. You'll get showered with love. And if you need a pick me up, drink some kava.
Yeah, it's that was well put, honey, for sure. It was amazing, man. I mean, we went there the night before with Andrew. We decided to go again the next day just because of the situation that happened, and she was amazing. That's what the show is all about, like having community and being able to lean on one another when we really need it. And even if we're not asking for it, sometimes you get all the help you need. Yeah. And it's just so cool to see the connections that we've made. I mean, we have a bunch of amazing people that have been guests on the show that we can call. If we need anything, they'll be there. I mean, for sure with even Andrew, like his support system with like a Brandon Kirk, or so many people in the community who are just like there for him if he needs anything. They're like, what is it? I'll be there. I'll help you. I'll sponsor. I'll pay for, or whatever it might be. They're just like, they're really good people in our community.
And the wild part about that is I came here not knowing anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, because I was driving to Pueblo once and someone was like, you know, broken down on the side of the road. And I was only living out here for like maybe 6 months. And I remember thinking like, I feel like I could call like 5 people right now if I broke down on the side of the road.
You just moved here?
Yeah, and I just moved here and like not knowing anyone. It's because of the effort that I put in, obviously. Like I was putting myself out there and meeting people, and like even outside of the business community. I was going like downtown and, you know, like meeting people, meeting girls.
Why'd you look at me when you said that?
People as in girls.
Yeah. At first, when I stopped, like I was like just stopped focusing on like any kind of relationship for like many years. But when I was still in that mode, you know. So I was like talking to people and like, you know, like having the connection like with people on a deeper level that I'd never in a city that I didn't know. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, the podcast helped with that in a lot of ways too. But also before the podcast too. But
Yeah. So of course, like we talk about how like the guests have helped you guys out, but what people don't know is also behind the scenes, Andrew, Marcus, and Edgar, they also go out and support the local businesses here in Colorado Springs. So name some of the businesses that you have supported throughout the year after hearing about their incredible stories and like just being like, oh, wow, like I really need to go check out like this business and that business. So name a couple and like tell me a little bit of details on how you support the local business here in Colorado Springs.
Gosh. Well, the first one, I mean, I ended up working for them actually. They paid our company to help them with marketing, was the Best of the West Wing Fest with Flip and Maritza. They're amazing. They're amazing people. And they're huge, just like Andrew, moved here 5-6 years ago and just made a huge impact in the community. And then they ended up doing all these different events. Their company is called Sophisticated Events. And then they end up doing another large event called the Best of the West Wing Fest, which happens every September here in Colorado Springs at the mining museum up in Northgate. And they're just incredible people. I don't normally lend my help for other events and things like that with my background, just because I know how hard and crazy it is, and you need like a year head start to like really market it effectively. But we did it nonetheless. And this past year we did like a full year together, which was awesome. But they were people that like right away I struck like such a great friendship with, more than anything. Like we rarely talk about business. We talk about life together and what's going on with them personally and everything.
oh yeah, I just my Duolingo thing came back, and Flip and me have the longest fringe streak. Flip is
nice
with Sophisticated Events. 103 days is a fringe streak on Duolingo. Flip is awesome.
And you also, well, his middle name's awesome too, which is hilarious. But you also did his self-defense academy too, right? Once upon a time, didn't you?
It wasn't even self-defense academy at the time. It was out of his garage, and I think he still does lessons out of his garage too, on top of what he already does.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu though, right?
Yeah, a little bit of physical training, but I was. They were doing multiple events actually. One of them was a nerd night, and then one of them was memoirs.
Yes.
And I was helping them with the live streams on that for a little bit, and me and Flip had like a little trade deal. Or
Was that during COVID?
nope, after.
Okay.
Well, what is COVID? You know.
Oh, I wasn't supposed to
It's
say
like
that.
it's like a 2 or 3 hour. It's like a 2 or 3 year
thing.
So
Yeah.
When did you start? Yeah.
Let's just restart the episode.
Was I not supposed to say that?
No, just kidding.
No, I'm just giving you crap.
I didn't say that. Andrew did.
Yeah, no, it was good. It's good time. I forgot where I was going.
But like even like we just had Poppy Sorellis on, and he
Oh
does
my
dueling
gosh.
pianos at Acme Event Co. It's awesome, and he was just at the Chicken Coop, which
Yeah.
is like a
he plays
cornerstone.
at Bourbon Brothers too.
And that bourbon, like these are my places I love to go, so we are bound to run into him
Yeah.
and support him for sure.
I found out actually in 2019, November 2019, he reached out to me to shoot a video for his
Company?
for his band actually.
Oh,
Not
cool.
even his company. He because I looked at the text when I added him again because we had like probably because we didn't know each other and like somehow our accounts just got separated. But I refriended him recently and I looked at our messenger feed and there was like a chain of text and he was about to do a video and like we just never ended up doing it. And then like I sent him that Ukrainian video too, by the way.
Oh my god!
I translated his clip, one of the clips into Ukrainian.
Oh,
Yeah. And it was really cool because Marcus is speaking in Ukrainian too. He's like, "Vakasabaka."
He dubbed it. Another
sounds like
good one
Marcus.
is Amber from Stir. Like, how could we forget her? Like, we went, me and Edgar, and well, Andrew too, but like me and Edgar specifically, like frequented Stir downtown for a year straight. We loved the coffee. She's one of the owners. She was on this show, but like before she was even on the show, I mean, we gave her like a lot of money and just amazed and welcoming
to
the
the
money.
point
You
where
didn't even give her a lot of
Amber.
money. You guys traded it for coffee.
Yeah.
So
For coffee.
it
Some of the
was-
best coffee in Colorado
It
Springs.
was to the point where Amber would see Edgar and Marcus walking down the street, knowing exactly
Where-
what they were gonna order.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
shout
And
out to Amber.
They would have
'cause-
to like if they went on walks, they would have to like not go that way if they weren't gonna stop by there later.
Yeah, so they had to kind of avoid Amber if they weren't gonna go get coffee.
Yeah, but they usually were.
But shout out to Amber. Thank you for taking care of them.
Yeah, for sure.
What about you, Andrew? What are some businesses that you're like, yeah, I supported
really-
it, loved it?
I've recently just bought a sheath underwear, a chest.
Sheath
They were
underwear.
a sponsor
A
of the
pocket for the
podcast for an
boys.
entire year actually, Bobby was a guest on the show too. That was a really cool connection. But like literally just a month ago, I bought some chess themed underwear from their website.
I thought you said chest.
yeah, chest,
Chest.
busty.
Well, they're also the official underwear of the UFC, which
Yeah.
is the big deal for them.
That is a huge deal.
If we're talking about like big guests that we've had on, I think Sheath would be one of the bigger guests. Yemi, the mayor coming on the
Mayor
show would be
Yemi,
one of the bigger
uh-huh.
guests.
Gosh, yeah.
I think Death Grip has been doing pretty good. Like I don't know their
Elijah?
actual numbers. Elijah, he's now in the
Elijah.
UFC. He's been on multiple times. Not just Elijah, but Gilbert as well too.
So these
Yeah.
these boys really rooting for Elijah. Marcus is always like, "Oh my gosh, honey, look, Elijah made it!" Like,
yeah, no,
That was a big deal.
awesome. It's
that
it's
was a big
huge
deal. That was a beautiful thing because I seen his first like fight and like I was like just watching him like dominate on that first
Well,
fight.
you've done music videos for him
Yeah,
too.
I've done like 4 music videos. Actually, his first fight that he had, I was at Supernova when he was when he was doing the fight, and like it was so funny because like I just seen that he like knocked him out in like a few seconds, and then like the stranger next to me, I was like, my guy right here, he's gonna make it to the UFC. I remember telling a stranger that.
Oh my gosh. And that's amazing that you were able to support, and that's who you guys are. You guys are, and a lot of people don't understand, like in the business world, you're competing against one another. But like no matter if Marcus is like in the marketing company, Andrew's doing his chess and his videography, they want to see you guys succeed. And what is your thoughts of like uplifting other competitors? Like what is your thought process for that? Is it something that's like no, it's all about competition, whoever gets it, or do you uplift them? How do you go about like referring someone to another competitor? Like what are your thoughts on that?
A rising tide raises all boats, especially in the marketing world, because marketing has such a spectrum. Like social media marketing might be different than digital marketing with ads or automation or email marketing. I mean, especially in my world, like it's really like you really need to actually lean into those who are in your space, because someone likely is going to be the surgeon or the specialist in a specific thing. So I've been really good friends with Madeline Costa.
Yep.
She's awesome, but she specifically does Google Ads and SEO. Those are actually the 2 things that I don't do. So we always lean on one another for different things. And it's been great. I mean, that's how you get perspective. That's how you actually grow in this world is, especially the business world, is you have to lean on those who are really specializing in different things, or you're just going to be a jack of all trades. And that's really hard in the business world. What do you say?
The Got Milk campaign is one of the most successful marketing campaigns, and they weren't attached to any brand. Literally, they probably, if you were in the milk business, you probably made money off of them doing their campaigns, or what it was, the government or Robert's Dairy or whatever it was. But I was just thinking of like how the Got Milk campaign was so successful, and it was actually false advertising. They had to take it down.
Oh, really?
Like, because they were saying like it healed your bones and all this stuff, and like we grew up thinking that because of that propaganda, to be honest, and it's like not even close to the truth. But
no.
but that's beside the point. Milk is a controversial topic. But
Well,
outside
what
of
do
that-
you guys think? Is it really going to heal your bones? Answer here at the bottom
you
of
get
this
bigger
podcast.
bones? Probably not. I drink a lot of milk, and I'm only 5. 9.
Well, did you eat vegetables? Have you drank coffee when you were young? No, I'm joking.
No, I did not drink coffee when I was younger. No, but
that's why me and Marcus are short. So.
Yeah, lots. I don't know how Edgar's so tall, but yeah.
But yeah, I was just thinking the other day while I was driving listening to someone talk about the Got Milk campaign, and I was just thinking of like they weren't even talking about this aspect of it, but I was independently thinking like that whole campaign is like it wasn't get Robert's milk, it wasn't get this milk, it was just get milk. And just imagine what that did for any of the brands if you were in the milk game. At the time it was probably only like 2 people though, but but yeah, I was just thinking how that elevates everyone. It's an interesting thing though, because you being a photographer, you probably see a lot of other photographers that get recommended outside of you. It's easy to, get bitter about certain things. Like if especially if you're in a smaller community and like you see someone who is like going to work with you and then they end up working with someone else, that can hurt your ego a little bit.
Yeah.
But then it's also humbling too in a lot of ways. It's like, okay, so what am I doing? What didn't I do? So it can also help you in a lot of ways to be better. If you allow it to. If you don't allow it to, it's just going to make you bitter and it's going to make you resentful and it's going to make you fall into the negativity pit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so there's just so much you could be upset about other people getting business outside of you, or you could just realize that there's so much, like just like with dating, I've always categorized it in the same way, like where dating and business are very similar, as in like there's a lot of other fish in the sea, like in a lot of other ways too, as well too. It's like, someone didn't work with you on this thing, but maybe they will with you down the line, or maybe there's other people out there too. Not maybe, there is other people out there. So it's like you could easily get upset, but and sometimes I'm human. I do too as well. I've gotten upset about other competition, like getting deals that I didn't get, but you can't. But I'm still friends with those people though. That's the crazy part. Yeah.
Well, it's exactly what Marcus was saying. It's like, so for the senior industry, there's a huge ethical thing for people accepting, we'll say, like seniors coming into a community where they're not able to take care of them. So for certain communities, they're like, we want the money, even though we know we can't handle this type of care, instead of referring them to another community that can handle that care. So in those cases, it's kind of like, why not build that relationship? Why not be working hand in hand with those people to make sure that you provide the best care for the residents, or in this case, clients or customers, right? So whatever your strengths are, people will refer to you, just like you kind of lean on like Madeline. So that's always good to know. So I just wanted to know you guys' thoughts about that. Anything else you wanted to say, Marcus?
Well, it's kind of interesting too, because you can't control other people, and that means other competitors too. So like with the Tiny House Festival, that was like my big claim to fame for a long time, because I had a lot of people come to that festival. But there was also another festival that happened, and it was the same exact Tiny House Festival, same format and everything as well.
Stole the same logo.
That's a whole nother story. But what they would do is that I would plan out my festival dates and then launch like, hey, the People's Tiny House Festival is going to take place this time next year. Get ready, get tickets. And then they would purposely put their event like a week before to kind of cut off some of the attendees or any of those things too. And like you can play so nice in your own sandbox. Like for me, I see that as like, I'm just going to be the best version of us. And that's going to show out, because I know we got on our side as far as talent and community and participants. And it did. Like a lot of the people who came to our festival and it was actually worked in all of our benefits, which is funny because a lot of the builders who came to the festival with these tiny houses, they could stay and go to mine. And so it actually worked out for my benefit.
That's the beautiful thing about small business, I think.
Right. And so it ended up helping me in the long run. And then they got to compare apples to apples pretty quickly. And they loved our festival. We'll just put it that way. I'm not going to say like they loved it more or anything like that, but like they really, really enjoyed our festival. And it's because we got to focus on what made us great, and like the community and the potlucks and all the different things. In fact, one of probably my biggest competitor in the country was the MC, John Kernahan, with the United Tiny Homes. And he's like one of my closest friends. And he was the MC from the very beginning.
Amazing man.
Amazing man.
Wife.
Amazing wife.
Kilt.
Amazing
Always wearing,
kilt.
yes.
Yes.
And that was the true community that like drew out of the festival and that made it so special for so many people. And then another example is like we were at Gratitude when we first went, me and Andrew and you, and there was a gal sitting next to us, and I think this was when you went with us, but she's like, I recognize you guys from the COS Business Park. I'm like, oh, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I got a podcast too. And I was like, that's amazing. Like, let's subscribe to yours too. And like, let's connect, let's link up, because that's
I remember that.
very important for our community. And it's so cool to see. I mean, you can see that as competition and people can take that different ways. But like, again, you can only be in control of what you do in the sandbox with other people. I choose to just be like, hey, listen, like I'm always going to be a reference if you need anything. This is a hard game. We have finally reaped the fruits of our labor after 5 years of doing this thing, 6 years really for Andrew.
5.
Yeah, 5 years for Andrew. And I mean, if you're willing to do that, then hell yeah, you deserve to be like supported by us.
Yeah.
We all have to go through the same obstacles. And so like, if they're able to do that, then yeah, they're definitely someone I want to have in my circle.
Yeah.
That's the interesting thing I think about small business versus big business. Because when it comes to small business, there's usually enough to go around for multiple businesses to be in there. But it also is business. It's hard for a reason, because it's most people, can't make it through the trials that take for people to stick around long enough. So even if you do have a competitor, if you stick around long enough, like maybe that competitor dissipates, or maybe they somehow become something else. But at the end of the day, there is only a certain market cap for every economy. Yeah. And so that means that there's going to be winners and losers.
Yeah.
And so you can try to be uplifting as much as possible, and like try to help competition as much as possible, but like at the end of the day, you still have to be profitable. And like if they're taking all the business, then like, and I know like Gary Vee always talks about is like focus just on building your own thing, and don't focus on tearing other people down. Like I think that's the mindset that you need to have.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's really good.
You can focus on building your skyscraper instead of trying to take down all the other skyscrapers so you can have your skyscraper, whatever it was that he said. But it's like, that's important, but it's like, there's still the aspect, like there's only so much market, like, but the thing is it's abundant though. Like there's only so much per economy. But in most cases, there's enough to go around for everyone. And then I think that's where the difference between big business and small business comes to, because I was just thinking like an analogy of like when Quick Trip starts putting pressure on Maverick, it's going to be interesting. It's like they're going to strategically put their locations right next to Mavericks. That's why what I say by put pressure on them.
Buc-ee's.
And you got Buc-ee's as well too. It's like when they put that pressure on Maverick by like before they start expanding, and like because they could like go to new locations, like and you see this with gas stations a lot. Like they could like find a spot where like, oh, there's not a Maverick here or another gas station for like miles. But what they're actually probably going to do when they put those first few ones here, like they did their first one, they put it next to 2 gas stations. The other one's already out of business essentially. So and like what that does is it puts pressure on the other company and like the competitors, so that when they do expand out to those different locations that aren't next to the other ones, they have a better advantage, and they've already grown the brand presence, and like they take a little bit of that market share, because how gas stations work, it's locally. Like I'm going to go to this Maverick because it's right next to my house. I'm not going to go to this Maverick because it's right next to Palmer Park.
Right. It's like the convenience of it.
And it's like, but if Quick Trip puts a Quick Trip right next to a Maverick, I'm choosing Quick Trip over the Maverick. And so it's like, that's what I'm saying is like, that's like business is cutthroat in a lot of ways. And like it depends. I think that's the difference between small business and big business though, is because small business, usually they uplift each other. Big businesses, usually they're fighting each other.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's like,
I love that you were able to say like, focus on your empire. So like, this is what makes this beautiful, because we talk about the heart and we talk about your focus, and those two together, that's just like a chef's kiss. Like that's a masterpiece right there. So, and that's like really good to hear from business owners, right? So aside from the podcasts, Marcus, we know that you own Red Mojo. So talk a little bit about Red Mojo and like what you do on the sideline from the podcast.
Oh man. Well, Red Mojo is the main bread and butter
The
now.
podcast is on the sideline.
That's true. What's on the main core of the
What's the main
sideline?
piece?
What's the main piece? What's the chicken
Red Mojo is
breast?
another marketing company that focuses on helping established businesses get to the next level through digital marketing efforts and automation. What I've found as a marketer for a long time is that like where I really soar is helping businesses who are established, who are able to stay afloat, but are trying to get to the next level, because it allows me to really stretch my legs as a marketer and really do the things that make, I think, my strengths great. So that's the purpose of Red Mojo, which is, again, working with established businesses. And what are you doing? Did it go out?
I can't check that camera.
Is it on?
Oh
Go
my
ahead.
gosh.
He can't check
He was,
either.
he was just trying to get in your shot.
Oh yeah. I was just trying to cut away too.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah. And here's something to note, like, especially like for me and like being more sales focused and stuff, like I'm so lucky that I've been able to like get the skill sets to make a business quickly go green really quick. And so like Red Mojo was probably my first standalone of like, okay, how quick can I get this sucker up and going and make it like pretty like self-sustainable really quickly. And so I was super lucky and blessed to like get that sucker up to like a 6-figure revenue in like 90 days, which is like a huge milestone for me. But what that taught me was that like you can take all my money or whatever it might be, like I'm able to get to places and sustain a business, which is like really cool. I mean, that's kind of the pile of evidence that brings up your confidence in anything that you do when you're going out on a limb. And like, I'm like, man, I can be able to build this thing, at least an agency, you know? I'm still with Recon as well. And then I have the podcast, and we haven't done a festival this year, and we'll see if we do one next year. Probably not, but I'll probably take a couple of years break from the festivals or change it up.
The year after, 2026, we're coming for you.
The cool thing about the festival is like it builds so much community, and it's really cool because I get everybody kind of engaged and able to participate in it, which is really cool. But for like the big focus for me, especially in the past year, has just been like, can I get the things that I'm in all like profitable and like really focus on just like building a profit as opposed to just like paying myself out and there's not much left over. Like I don't want to do that anymore. I want to build certain things and make them profitable and make sure that they can cash flow. And so that's some of my learning lessons I've been able to garner. And then through Red Mojo, like it allows for me to build a team that I really want and build really special things. Businesses once you get to that as a business, you get actual budgets for marketing and you can really nurture things. I have a client that has 26,000 leads, and their big thing is that like, hey, like we're able to bring in a bunch of leads, but like we're not able to convert all of them because we have nothing to nurture those leads. And what I found is that, like I was talking about earlier, is like there's so much like when you're getting in the ring of things with business is like getting leads. Like that's the game for a long time. It's like getting new leads. And then eventually you get to a part where you're like, these are repeat customers. And that's really the bread and butter. Like once you get to a certain level, like how do you expand or nurture the ones who are already like in your system and know of you, but haven't converted yet, and like automating different workflows and all that kind of stuff. And so that's what I've really been working on with more of those established businesses. And that's why I'm able to work with other marketers, because it's like, I'm kind of doing a different thing. I'm not just working with every startup under the sun anymore, which has been nice for me because as a marketer, like it's really hard, especially when someone's like giving you all that they have and you know in your heart that's not enough to like really see this thing through. And just to be a little bit more frank with them and be like, hey, like this game's hard and it's going to take a lot to do this game. And if you don't have the money to do all the things that you need to do, like here's priority. But even then, like it's going to take a lot of budget and money or time or whatever it might be to do this thing forward. And it's a little bit less sustainable. So once you get out of startup land and work in an established business, hit up Red Mojo. And I have a team I'm building with that. And it's just been really cool to see it grow.
So you talk about time, and I know oftentimes you and I have conversations about like what's going on in your company. So one important factor is you said time. So a lot of people don't know like SEO and like the digital marketing, it does take time. I mean, how long has it taken you, Andrew, to like, well, both of you guys to build this podcast up? Like, how long has it taken?
2 days.
Incorrect. Try again.
Okay. 5 years. It's going to be an ongoing process.
And it will be. So it's just like as time goes on, you'll start seeing like the progress of SEO, of the social media marketing, anything that like Marcus does. And you can explain a little bit more for like the time process. Like what should your clients expect of you, like time frame wise, and like for your services, what should they expect from you?
Well, it all depends. Like as a marketer, you got to audit what the situation is that you're walking into. Just think of yourself as a doctor. Like you're not going to diagnose everybody with the same like prescription, right? So like you got to like assess the health of the business. And when it's a startup, it's a whole nother game versus like an established business, you know, because like an established business throwing $20K a month at you is nothing. In fact, you're lowballing them, like saying, hey, can you pay me $20K a month because of the efforts and deployed resources that you're doing? So you got to assess like where they're at. With that being said, SEO, paid ads, social media, pushing all that organic content out, email, all these different things. Marketing is comprehensive, meaning they all work together and talk together. So if you're doing one thing, that's fine. But like eventually they all got to, like everything needs to work for the thing to really to start working and getting going. It's like anything else that's like a car, right? A car needs more than just wheels to get going. It needs a combustible engine or a battery nowadays. Like it needs all these different parts to kind of get soaring. So like, again, like with a bit, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. There's like, hey, I just want someone to run ads for me. It's different than that. It's like, okay, well, if I'm running ads for you and you don't have SEO and have organic optimizations on your website or whatever it might be, then you're paying top dollar and anything ad wise. Do you feel comfortable paying top dollar? Do you feel comfortable paying twice as much as your competitor to get the same keywords on Google or whatever it might be? They don't know that all those things talk, and they do. And so assess, engage.
Running an ad without a celebrity is less conversion than running an ad with a celebrity or with someone that they know, you know, because so it's like that, just like it all ties into each other. Like where the things you're doing over here, it makes this ad cheaper over here. You know, and like you're building your personal brand over here with the company that makes your ads a lot cheaper actually because they convert better, you know. So
yeah, so and that's building up brand, right? So we talk about like Red Mojo, and like, do you provide that type of knowledge for your clients when they first come in, or how do you go about like making sure that your clients know like exactly what to expect from
Yeah,
Red
you guys
Mojo?
set expectations right out of the gate, especially if they're a startup too. What I have found is like, as a marketer, that I'm also a business owner. So like I have to speak a lot more frank to these folks. And what you find is like in the beginning, you just want to be kind of sunshine and rainbows and be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to get here to here. But you also got to be frank about like the systems that are broken. And what you find is like when you're transparent with people, whether it's relationships, business, clients, whatever it is, that actually builds trust. Like if you screw something up, you have to bring that to your client. You have to bring that to your partner, your relationship, whatever it might be. Like trust, transparency is everything. You have to do that. And so like one learning lesson for me is like leading with that little, like a side of frank, with all my clients and just being like, okay, like I understand what you want. But as a professional, as the doctor prescribing this whole situation, this is my thoughts, and it's probably what you want and you think you want it this way, but this is what you actually need. It's like anything else. And so like anybody I bring under my team, I'm like, hey, don't forget, you're the doctor. Don't let the client say, hey, I want to run $500 for this ad or whatever it might be. Push back on them. If you're the professional, push back on them. Do you expect a good doctor to take your advice for your own health? I mean, you can give them some of the symptoms, but at the end of the day, you go to them because they're the professional. And so I look at Red Mojo with that lens, and it's worked. And yeah, it's awesome. It's a different level of relationship with my clients for sure.
That's great that you talk about trust, because a lot of people go into commitment. We talk about commitment, right? So commitment for photography for me or for marketing for you. And it's scary because you don't know what you're investing in. It can be really, really like amazing or crappy photos, right? Or really great marketing or crappy marketing. So it's good that you're able to be transparent And transparency is a huge thing for communication. So I'm glad that you brought that up. I know that we're running low on time, but I wanted to shift it over to Andrew. And we wanted to talk about the chess, the 4D chess.
4D Chess Creative Co. is the name of the business.
Tell us about it. What brought this business to life? Like tell us about your vision, what you're making. Like what are your plans for the future for this new business?
Yeah, so and I'm glad you had did a hard shift right there, because I was about to add more to that.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to. I mean,
yeah, me too. But that's good because we need to talk about 4D chess because it's. I mean, we've been kind of Easter egging it for a couple of weeks now with the shirts and everything. Anyway, so why not?
We will
for a couple months actually.
Everything, so
yeah, there's this is basically where I've come with a lot of everything that I've learned in my businesses, and kind of. Even stuff that I was studying last year around this time when it came to e-commerce stuff, I was really diving deep into building learning very specific things of how to launch a brand around one single product actually. And that was really insightful. What I learned just a year ago is how to prop up an entire brand in 2 weeks, or not 2 weeks, in 2 days. Prop up the entire brand, the logo, the this, the that, the website, and everything for one single product. And I did that for 3 different products last year, actually. So there's a lot of things that I actually do behind the scenes that I don't talk about too. But I talked with you guys a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Blendberry was one of the websites actually. My ad account for Facebook, for advertising 4D Chess is actually still that Blendberry account actually. So I got to change that up. But that was just learning some things with that, and learning the e-commerce side. And I've kind of always been had a little bit of skills with selling products in the marketplace and online, because I was doing that before I even got into videography for real, as a little side thing, just flipping things, and got that from Gary Vee as well too. But learning so many things about how to grow businesses over the last, since I was 16, trying to launch multiple businesses. And I think where I came with starting 4D Chess, I knew I wanted to do something where I was creating a product. And I've been wanting to do that for a few years actually. It's kind of been where I wanted to shift from doing a service-based business to a product-based business. And which one?
Anyone.
Yeah. All right. And that's an actual design I designed myself. So it's also accumulating some of the skills I've learned with learning how to do 3D design. It's mixing my skills with art as well too. Understanding straight line, and understanding good art and design, but also product design. I've always been an inventor at heart as well too. Since I was young, I have a book of invention ideas that I've had. I've actually, when I was 16, when I was 17 or 18, there was this thing called Invent Help, and I went and I had this whole idea, and I had it sketched out. I have a bunch of diagrams and sketches. I had this piano bracelet that I was making too as well. It was a functional piano bracelet, and I was if you get multiple of them, you can connect them together and have a whole row. All these ideas and all these inventions and all these things, I think ultimately 4D Chess is kind of merging everything when it comes.
Why chess though?
Strategy, yes. So I'll get to that here in a second.
I'm that's what I've been trying to ask you.
It's the weave. It's the weave. I got to do the weave. Trump popularized the weave.
Weave back in.
Yeah.
And
DJT, learned that from him.
So mixing my skills with my video and mixing my skills with my marketing, and learning how to successfully create viral videos as well too, which is we've done that with this podcast multiple times. I've done that with a business I was working for just this year, is actually recently, and I learning merging all those skills together and into kind of ultimately what I called 4D Chess 3D printing, is what the original name was. And the idea was I want to develop really cool products that are also functional, that have a use, whether it's an earring or whether it's a succulent planter or whether it's even a robot or things down the line that I want to ultimately eventually build. And as I was I already registered the name 4D Chess, 3D printing, all this stuff, and I was gonna I had a few ideas in mind, but ultimately I realized, and I deep down already knew, from things that I learned through Alex Ramosi and things that I learned over the last couple of years, that the riches are in the niches. And the reaches are in the niches. The reaches are in the niches. So the riches are in the niches. And so I needed to get niche slapped, essentially. And so I got niche slapped. And so I got niche slapped. And so I already had the name and I had
Stop saying
so I already had the name and I already had it already been registered like with Colorado. Like Jenna Griswold, she was in the news recently. Had to go sign up on her website for the website.
That's right.
And like anyone who signed up, anyone who's registered a business in Colorado knows Jenna Griswold's face. But outside of the point, chess. I realized that I needed to niche down, and I already had the name. And 4D chess is an actual, like, put up the definition right here, is a slang term that means like you're thinking on multiple levels. You're thinking like you're thinking outside of ways that seem like where you're actually going, kind of in a way. Like it's all about strategy, really. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I've always gravitated to like thinking about strategy and thinking about things and on like multiple levels. And so creating the chess niche, creating that chess, the brand around 4D chess, and then realizing I needed to niche down ultimately led to me realizing I should niche, since I already have the brand, I already have the name, I already have the website, I've already like built up the foundation essentially. I should focus on the chess niche. So ultimately my goal with 4D chess is to create innovative, awesome products that do dope stuff. But I'm focused, I'm going to build off the foundation of niching down first. And we're going to create those type of products for chess enthusiasts, for people who like the chess brand, or not chess brand, but people who like chess. Mm-hmm. People who maybe not even like play the game, but they like the aesthetic of chess. And so it's like to bring a whole new level of awesome chess related products to those people is the initial foundation of what this business is supposed to do, and then to build off of that, because the heart of the company is innovation and strategy. Mm-hmm. So it's like I'm playing 4D chess around a brand called 4D chess. Well, you
have to be creative.
Yeah,
you have to. I mean, what products do you have here right now, Andrew?
The Rook succulent planter, and I call it a succulent planter, and like actually this is the most updated version right here, because it's actually wider than these ones. You'll see it, and like this is iteration 1. This is my first Iron Man suit. Came out here, and like you can see it's not smoothed out or anything. It's all, but you can see how tiny that is. How is a plant supposed to fit in there? So I shortened it. I took out that whole second half, and it's still tiny on the top. So I had to like measure it, made it bigger. Actually, made it bigger, made it more smoothed out. But then ultimately, I landed on just this. It's a design, and like this is what product design is all about. It's an iteration. It's an iterative process where you're constantly improving the things. And it's like I literally have to retake all the pictures because they all look like this one, and it looks very close. I could probably use the same pictures and no one would notice, but like people would notice a little bit, slightly. So it's like learning, like. So ultimately, why I landed on the planters is because I did market research, something that I learned last year when I was studying e-commerce. I was like, what type of products are doing well? I noticed that like planters were doing well, and like so it's like, how do I take that and like readapt it to what I'm doing? And so it's like I came up with the Rook succulent planter, and like I might actually do a set where you have the Rook, the Knight, the King, and like
oh cool.
I'm going to be actually announcing that on my live stream tonight, actually. So
nice. So
this will be out
a little
by
late.
No, this will be after. Yeah.
Well, this will be after the live stream,
mm-hmm. But and so it's like I'm just diving into that too, learning how like the whole thing about like social shopping on lives is like a big thing that's like coming around like over the last couple of years, and like learning how to actually lean into that, because I was just going to create content. But really what I should do is be doing these live streams. Marcus is actually the one who told me about Whatnot a couple months ago. And I didn't even know about it, but now like I started learning about it. It's like Gary Vee is actually the loudest on Whatnot right now. To bring him back up, like he's doing a 7-hour live stream on Whatnot. Like,
that's cool.
And like I seen him when he was doing like the TikTok stuff, talking about like it before it became TikTok. He was actually in his book crushing it. He has like all the platforms you should be on. It's like TikTok, this, that, and then Musical.ly, which ultimately became TikTok.
Yeah,
he was talking about TikTok before it was even TikTok.
Oh yeah, big time about it too.
Yeah. And so it's just like learning all that stuff and what I needed to do, and like just kind of adapting and evolving and kind of focusing on and the thing about chess too is I've always liked chess. I've been playing chess since I was 5 years old, something like that. And like I didn't love chess, but I kind of fell into this where I'm at with it right now. And like but like my older brother taught me how to play chess when I was like 5 or 6 or something like that. And like we were playing checkers before that. And then when you showed me chess, I was like, oh, this is next level, because you can't just go forward. Like there's, there's a little bit more. And checkers is strategy too. But I mean, this has 6 different pieces that have different moves that they can do. And like, it's like the ultimate, like, it's like it's just good.
It's ultimate strategy game. It's awesome.
Ultimate strategy game in a lot of ways. And it's considered a sport.
Well, we're really excited to see where this goes. I know that you said that you'll have the live stream. I know that my watch just beeped, so I know it's 8 o'clock right now.
And can I say one more thing?
Yes.
I won't go on a whole sentence, but 3D printed products, but we also have really cool designs that I designed myself as well too. These designs I think are advanced designs, to say the least. Like cool. They're not just like basic like words on a shirt. So like in like you got the Matrix one, you got the Fight Club one. This right here was actually before I realized that I needed to make better designs. So everything's an iterative process.
I love that one.
I like this.
That's the basic design, and I realized you can't just throw shit on a shirt. You got to make it meaningful. And so then I learned.
I like this one.
You okay? Okay.
It's
So
very,
maybe
it's cute.
my original idea was like thinking about fashion, and it's like I can make like fashionable statements, but I realized they needed to be having a little bit more purpose and more meaning behind that, and kind of understanding my target audience, understanding what they like, and then creating products around that. But I also do canvas prints as well too, and like there's one right there. It's a pretty big one.
It's beautiful.
They're all designs that I created myself, and with a little bit of help of AI, and
It's awesome.
and still went in there and had the ideas and brought them to life though. These are actual products. That's like the difference between just using AI and then actually making it useful.
Yeah.
AI. So
No, that's always good to know.
That was a rant.
All right, guys. So one last question. If you were to give advice to any of the business owners watching right now, what would it be?
You want to go first?
Oh man. Yeah. Choose your circle wisely. As you guys have been some of my closest friends, and my girlfriend, of course, over the past few years, I've had people who were involved in my life many years before you guys ever were, that I've lost in the case of personal relationships or business or whatever it might be. Your best circle is those who will have your back when you're going through your hardest times, no matter what it is. They're the ones cheering loudest when you're doing well, and they're also the ones who have your back when you're not doing so well. And in business, just like in life, you'll find yourself feeling very lonely and being in a race that you thought you would have other people in that race with you, and you're not finishing that race with them. And so for me, that was some of the hardest lessons for me, is just like, it's good to have people you envision running this race with, but it's okay to move on. It's okay for partnerships to fade away and for different things to happen. That's part of life. Business is like the ultimate personal development tool you'll ever face, because it exposes all your weaknesses. If you're an introvert, it's going to make you be an extrovert. If you're bad financially, it's going to show on the books. And so, choose your friends and those you surround yourself with very carefully. Do your best as far as that judgment test goes on. And then like as the years go on, you'll get better at judging those characters. But like, I'm so happy to have you guys for sure as in my corner. We've been through some crazy times, us and even Edgar behind the camera over the years. And no matter what happens, like friendship, business, whatever, like you guys, and of course my baby, hopefully I'll marry one day, but like you guys will always have a special place in my heart no matter what happens, just because of like the things we've already been through together. And that's awesome. Even some people who are no longer friends with me, they have a special place in my heart because of they were there in certain instances when I needed them.
Some of them got a special place in your ass too, I bet.
Yeah. Wow.
No, just
Wow.
kidding.
Cut that part.
That's not the case. What the fuck? This guy.
I could have held it back. That was a good one.
Doesn't even make any sense.
It does. It makes perfect sense. I think it makes perfect sense.
Friendship right here.
Put in the
Okay.
comments if you think that makes perfect sense or not.
Here's the viewer. The viewer's like, "Oh my gosh, he's coming up on something beautiful," and then Andrew just jumps in with some crazy ass
Drops
shit. But yeah, choose your circle carefully and have faith and be blind about what you do. If you have convictions in what you're doing, that's all you need. And sometimes that will negate any kind of logic or whatever. The great ones negate logic and go on and accomplish what they need to accomplish. That's what the great ones are here for. So, yeah.
That was beautifully said.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest thing for question again? No, it's biggest advice for people who are starting a business.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
What is your advice
Yeah.
for?
And
starting
just
your
wanted to make
business?
sure I was going to answer the right question.
For business owners or people,
Or just
starting-
anyone. Yeah. Okay. So, or anyone starting a business. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or has a business. What I was thinking was that it is important to, really narrow, like cut out as many distractions as possible. And it's also like as much as it is okay to start over or start again, make sure that the effort you put in for the thing that you were trying to achieve was the absolute, like don't let the distractions get in your way. Like you can have all these ideas. I let distractions get in my way all the time. And it's like, it's hard to really focus, especially if you're trying to to launch a business, because it takes so much energy to get something off the ground. Like to have something like Red Mojo, start working after 90 days is not easy. Like that takes so much. There's so much amount of work that takes that is required to get this thing flying, or and a lot of times it's falling as you're building it, like that one saying. And so it's like to cut out as many distractions as you possibly can, because it's easy to get distracted with certain like ideas that you have, or with certain things that may seem good, but it doesn't matter, because you need to be focused on the core thing and not let other distractions get in your way. But what's really important, I think, is that like you can have distractions and all that stuff, but it's like, how do you build a core pillar without like small or like what am I thinking? Like I'm trying to think of an example of like small things that I did, but like what's interesting is like even the distractions, they still build on to the next thing. So it's like I got distracted with wanting to start a video game company a couple years ago in 2022. And what that built on was me learning how to do 3D design, me learning how to, it was also tapping into something that felt really fulfilling, because I was going to go to college for game design, actually. Like that was what I was going to go to school for. Mm-hmm. And so like it felt really good getting into that, but I think that took away from, because when I got into that, I was having a good season with Vima Visuals, and then the next season of Vima Visuals was not good because I was focusing on that. And so it was like
consistency is key.
And like not even just consistency over time. It's like it's hard, because I wanted to do that, and I did do that, and like I made some money off of the skills that I learned from that. And ultimately, I think it really helped build to what I really will feel fulfilled for. But it was like, how do I know that was something that I shouldn't have done? Because I think it is something that I should have done, but it probably contributed to having struggles with Vima Visuals, so it was like it's hard to tell those things, and it's like I don't really have advice here except for like it's hard.
Mark Cuban has a good quote, which Mark Cuban's on my naughty list for sure, but he says, "Don't follow your passion, follow your efforts." And I think that's like so true for Andrew. Like follow your efforts and like what you're truly putting your effort into, because we all can have these passions, but like at the end of the day, like your efforts are going to prove through, because that's consistency. Like your efforts in learning 3D design and all the different things have all built up for this company. And it's just so beautiful to see like what you've been able to do. And you have. So I hope that wraps up kind of what you're saying.
Well, on a micro level and a macro level, to be paying attention to that, because today Amazon brought this desk that I need to organize because I have a bunch of shit all over my counters and I just have too much stuff all over the counters because I build a lot of things and I have a lot of things that I'm trying to I'm setting up cameras over here. So I needed this shelf, but today would have been even more productive if I didn't spend 45 minutes to an hour building that shelf. Mm-hmm. And it's just shelf. And it's but it is what it is because it's those macro levels. I got really excited a couple of days ago, trying to learn how to build and clone an AI of myself. And that helps with certain things. But if I wouldn't have done
2 of you?
What? Yeah. There's gonna be 100 of me actually.
Can you hear the laugh?
100 different looks, 100 different laughs. It'll be great. But that ultimately built on that. But it's about knowing I have these list of things that I should really be focusing on because really what is moving the needle, and learning how to clone myself was not going to move the needle that day, but it does help me with other things that I know down the line. But it's what's going to move the needle that day would have been figuring out how to create different types of content. All this, there's a bunch of things that I could have done, but I didn't. That's what I'm saying. It's it's so hard.
I always just start my day with what are the 4 things I can do that are going to help me accomplish whatever the heck I'm doing, whatever I'm focused on. So for 4D chess, I'd be all right, what are the 4 things I can accomplish to just move the ball in the right direction for 4D chess today?
Marcus actually has a to-do list. He puts it on his whiteboard, and I go in there and I mess with his whiteboard all the time. But you see his process, the priorities and everything that he needs to get accomplished. And I feel and I'm not saying this is absolutely going to work for you, but it works for me. I found a difference of my to-do list and then me just trying to figure out what to do in life, So to be able to prioritize, and that's a really big thing for businesses is, okay, which client or which task needs to be prioritized, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And sometimes you have those weeks or those days where it's you can, really focus, but sometimes you have the days where it's you can't focus either. So it's
and I feel that with all my soul. That's
yeah.
I think, but for me specifically for my full-time job, it's kind of I have to find time to actually write it down, or else you get so busy and your mind's running that you completely forget it. And as I'm getting older, I'm starting to I'm not 100 years old.
You're not geriatric yet, right?
Yeah, but I'm still forgetting a lot. So it's just I want to make sure that you in order to keep business running, you have to prioritize and make those those lists of what absolutely.
Well,
needs
that
to be
ultimately
done.
I think is a good way to sum up what my point was, and the advice that I think that would be.
I can't help but to look at Andrew and just think you got niche slapped.
Yeah, I did, yes. But ultimately, I the advice that I would give to someone who wants to start a business or who is starting a business is, and for you, it might not even feel right, actually, this advice, but I think it's actually what you should do and what is important and what I would tell you to do and what I am telling you to do and what I'm telling myself to do. I think you have to cut everything else out. You can't have that job. If you want to do photography, you have to do photography. For me to do for 4D chess to work, I need to focus on 4D chess. I can't focus on another job. I can't focus on Beam Visuals. And that's the interesting thing about this podcast is we've made the podcast work on us alongside our other efforts.
Well, see, and that's the thing for me, because I think in past episodes I talked about I can't there's no way that I can rely on my photography.
But you have to if you want it to make it work, though. You have to.
But
for Vima Visuals, my first successful business was Vima Visuals. The only reason it was successful is because I left everything and focused on it.
So I understand what you're saying, to put that 100% focus on photography. But being realistic, I cannot make a living off of just the photography right now. Right. So
if you saved it up for 3 months, saved it up for 2 months, and you only focused on photography, you could.
It's potential. Yeah.
It's potential.
Imagine if you only focused on it, though.
But that's the thing about me.
It's scary, though. It's a risk.
And that's the thing.
That's business, though.
That's business. You have to be able to take a risk in order to do that.
Depends what you want out of the business, though, too, right?
That's
I know
true
that
too, yeah.
there's also a lot of stuff that you guys don't see behind the scenes for my photography stuff,
oh yeah,
being up until midnight making props, making sets, being up at 5 a.m. editing photos.
Which is what I'm saying is if you didn't have the job, you could have the time.
And I could focus on that.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
But
then you could focus on even more too on top of that.
and you know, it's something to consider. It's a risk to take. And
It is a risk. Yeah.
I think that a lot of like business owners need to know, like, even though like this and that, like we do have to pay for bills and we have to like make sure that we have the finances in order to make the business work. Because I can tell you right now, if it wasn't for my full-time job, I wouldn't have camera equipment. I wouldn't have props. I wouldn't have
For sure, you got to build up, you know. But
you build up.
But then also like it forces you to think the ways that you need to think to get those things. So it's like maybe you would have, you know, done certain things differently, but also you can wait, like you can plan and then do that too as well too.
Yeah.
And but I think ultimately if you want it to be your business and your full-time thing, you're like
you have to invest
not
in
only
time.
invest, but you have to risk. You have to like take that leap. And like if you're
That's
asking
it.
me
I'm quitting my job today.
you already quit your job, so you got
I quit. No, I'm joking.
But if you're asking me what my advice is, I think that is the most important thing that I've
all
learned.
in.
take that risk.
You have to go all in. Yeah.
Hey,
No,
that's fair.
And
that's so
obviously
true.
apply it to your own life.
Don't be like me.
No,
Take
that's
the
not what I'm
risk.
saying. Apply it to your own situation and make it.
No, and that's great advice. That's 100% because it does take a lot of efforts. I mean, I have a boyfriend who put like everything on the line, and he's building up not only one company, 2 companies, and a festival, and helping like this podcast grow. So it's just like you see that, and it's like it can happen, but you have to invest that time, invest that commitment. So
And then also, you know, be true to yourself when you actually do that. Because say you stopped your job and you want to focus on your business and then you jack off all day, you know, like
cut the clip.
Don't cut any clip.
cut to the clip of people jacking off.
Just put a donkey there.
But it's like, you know, like
Oh, that's jackass.
like you could feel like you're putting in the time and the effort, and like sometimes you are, but it's like you got to make sure that you're consistently doing that every single day and not letting the stress of not having income coming affect you, which can be very stressful.
It just depends
Yeah.
where you are in your situation. I mean, some people don't. I mean,
Yeah.
it would be. I mean, for me, like for my kids, I just want to make sure that they understand the skills of working into. They want to. The one thing that I was super blessed with is that I worked at an agency and saw like what an actual agency that was a 9-figure agency and how that operated, how they handled their clients, and what it was to be a professional at that level before opening up Recon. Taught me. I mean, we were on step 5, 6, and 7 the first day just because we knew how to framework everything for that. And so like my professional experience going into that was invaluable. Not only that, but to like handle clients who are like screaming at you, I spent $50,000 this month and this and that. And then be like, hold up. Okay, first of all, and then posture up with clients. That's really hard to do if you don't know what you're doing and you've never had an experience like that. And like you're learning on someone else's dime when you're doing it for a job in the very beginning, which is really invaluable. Like learning off someone else's dime as opposed to going to school, paying for school, or like going in on your own in the very beginning. There's a lot of pain points that folks who do that versus those who are like, and I went through both, right? Because I was an entrepreneur for like 6-7 years before I went to the professional. So I kind of had both. And there's a lot of ignorance tax that you pay when you're just like, I'm just going to work for myself, figure it out and do it. It's challenging. It's hard. And you can do it both ways.
It's also personality too.
Yeah, and it's true. Personality, I mean, financial situation too. Like if you're able to live at home with your family, those first few years or whatever, you know, it's
Well,
just different.
Financial situation is an excuse because anyone can save up, anyone can work hard to save up, anyone can do the things that they need to in order to take that leap. So you just gotta, which I'm saying, like maybe in this day you can't, but gotta figure it out.
It's taking risks, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the big message here is being able to take that risk. And you know, for some people that might be a little scary, and for others it might be something that they're willing to do. So,
And goals too, like you said, that's important as well too.
Goals.
But if your goal isn't to have a big photography business, then that makes no sense for you to do that.
well,
So-
what's the point of doing it if your goal isn't to be the best of the best or having like the biggest
Well, that's
photography
the rapper
business or
mentality,
marketing?
but like rappers think that, but not everyone is a rapper. So
Well, I'm very glad.
maybe you're a rapper.
Wow. Okay. I'm very glad to be where I am today. And I think that with the knowledge that I have in the industry, I've gotten to the point where people know who I am. They know my name, and I'm really good at what I do. So regardless to whether or not I make it in the photography industry, I know that I have security and everything that I need to rely on. Especially being in a relationship with an entrepreneur, because it is scary. You never know when we're going to go through a depression, a recession, and who knows the future. I know that I'm stable, and I know that I have my finances. And I also know that I do invest enough time into my photography to know that I will eventually be somewhere. When I'm ready to take that risk, it's that moment when you save up. It's that moment when
Have you planned for it though? Or are you just thinking?
How did this turn on me, guys?
It's him asking the questions.
So, I mean, it's stuff that you have to do throughout the businesses, right? You have to plan for that. I mean,
it doesn't sound like you're planning for it though.
Why are you attacking me?
It sounds like you're like. It sounds like because we're having a good conversation. I think, right?
Like, why are you attacking me?
It's not attacking.
I mean,
I'm sorry you feel attacked.
No, it's not something that like I want to discuss like on this podcast because it's about you guys. We can discuss this off the cameras and stuff, but I think for me personally, it's just like I am like a newer entrepreneur. And I am trying to get my business going. And with that business, I also know that there's steps. So of course, like I can tell you guys, my editing isn't like, we'll say like Lars Lieber, like all this beautiful landscape photos and all that. That's something that I can't do. And it's also a process of learning. So therefore my like photography rates, it's not going to be $500 for a session. Something that I can be like, okay, I can book that like that. I don't have that brand name right now, and it's something that I'm working up to. So as you were talking about earlier, it's important to know like what your brand is and what it's about. So as I'm getting more clients, I'm building up that reputation. I'm building up that word of mouth, and that's something that I can say I'm very proud of because I've made a lot of money throughout this past year just by word of mouth referrals. So that's something that like I never even thought that I would get to at this point. And that's just me being like honest with you. It's something that like Marcus will tell you, I'm a person that's always going to be like, my work isn't the best. It's not the best. And until I feel like it is like up to par with the top photographers, I will not like lose my stability and finances until I get to that point. And that's something that we talked about on my episode like several times. So yeah, it's just like we said, entrepreneurs, they need to take risks. You guys have taken those risks. And like, it's great that you're able to build Red Mojo just like 90 days in, right? So it's great that you're able to come up with creativity, like with your products, and like you have that entrepreneur mindset, but you also have to
like close to like, over like I think somewhere like 50 to 100 sales, something like that. I haven't done the math yet. Yeah.
And that's
so already selling things.
And that's great that you're able to pay bills and everything that you need to with
not
your
off this
products.
yet. No.
So that's something that is also like in every entrepreneur's mindset. That's why so many entrepreneurs get into the depression is if I fail at this, then what? If I don't have the finances for this, then what? So it puts you in a bad spot when you do not plan accordingly. And for me, I'm a very paranoid person. I'm a very like, oh my gosh, worst case scenario. I'm what you call like, I could be a pessimist. I can be a realistic, like a realist, right? Where it's just like, what would happen if the worst case scenario were to happen? And it's scary. It's really scary for you guys to take that risk and for all these other business owners to take the risk. That's something that's just like, it's very overwhelming. Mm-hmm. But
it's good to be young and do it too, you know, because like there's less responsibilities and you don't have kids. And like, it's just, there's a lot of things in your favor. Like when you're younger and you have like the independence, not much financial obligations like when you have kids or whatever it might be. So like the older you get, it's kind of a ticking time clock. In my opinion, you can do it whenever, you know, like Colonel Sanders started in the 60s, which is insane. But like, again, it's all about gauging risk. It's all about like whatever you feel is the right level of risk. Anybody who's done it like full on can tell you there's been moments where they've been owned.
Yeah.
Or they've had sleepless nights because financially they don't know how they're going to pay their bills. And so like I always say to folks, like, don't ever compare your step 1 to someone else's like step 20. Because you don't know those people, like a Lars Lieber or whomever might be, like, you don't know like the sleepless nights they went through, or like the unpaid bills they had to go through, or bankruptcies these entrepreneurs have been through to get where they're at. There's a lot of pain, and anybody who says there's not pain, they're lying. We all go through it. That's why it's a cool rite of passage when you see success, and I think it's so admirable. But at the end of the day, like, it's not something for the faint of heart.
No.
And it's good to have the support system that we have. And I'm proud of you, honey, for everything that you've done, for sure. Just because you lean on me, but you like to figure things out on your own in a lot of ways too, which is good, because to be an entrepreneur is to be a problem solver. And yeah, it's been awesome. And thank you for interviewing us. I really appreciate it, just because it's good to have the tables turned for us to answer questions and for folks to get to know us beyond just like the questions we serve up on the show. There's a lot of experience and wisdom that we both have through years of doing different types of things. And so it's much appreciated.
Absolutely. All right, guys, as we finish up, go ahead and look at your cameras. Where can everyone find you?
You want me to go first? redmojomarketing.com. I've never mentioned that on anything yet, so that's kind of cool to see. reconmarketingservices.com is our other marketing company, where I have with Brett Curley, my business partner. We do SEO and paid search on Google. And then Red Mojo is kind of that, like I said before, how you scale your businesses. We do social media marketing as well through that platform. COS Business Podcast. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, essentially YouTube, Facebook as well. We're on there. But we're active on all the platforms, TikTok and all of them. Yeah. What about you, man?
4dchesscreative.com. One call to action, because that's good marketing.
Nice.
All right, guys, closing it up. Thanks for watching the Colorado Springs Business Podcast, #1 podcast in Colorado.
Springs.
All right. I could have gone on more on that whole subject, and it wasn't attacking you. It was because I'm
No,
passionate
you're
about it.
okay. I just got caught off guard. I'm like, oh, I don't know what to say.